I am Dr.V.UMAMAHESWARI, Assistant Professor of English from A.D.M. College for Women, NAGAPATTINAM. I am going to take the Dear Departed one-act play from Part 2 English, Paper 3, the drama for effective communication. The play Dear Departed was written by Stanley Hutton. We will see the introduction about the author. William Stanley Hutton. This period was between 1881 to 1913. He was a famous English dramatist. He was one of the best of a group of realistic playwrights. Often he was called as the Manchester School. In every play, he sought to present an idea which he realized in his life. The experience in his life he used to give in his play. About the author, the writer of this play, William Stanley Hutton, was a famous English dramatist. He was a prominent member of a group of English dramatists, and he was known as the Manchester School of Dramatics. His plays are set locally in northern England but represent universal aspects of human nature. He had a remarkable gift for dialogue that is evident in The Dear Departed. In the play, Stanley Hutton satirizes the degradation of moral values in the British middle class. In trying to grab the things belonging to their father, the children, the two daughters, completely disregard modesty, decency, and obligation towards their family. Introduction about the play. The one-act play, Dear Departed, shows the hollow relations. That is, the hollow relations means the relation between the two sisters. Though they were sisters, they were not affectionate. They are acting like sisters, but not the real sisters. Between the two daughters and their aged father. The one-act play, Dear Departed, shows the hollow relations between the two daughters and their aged father. These relations are purely governed by selfishness and greediness of the daughters. How the old father neutralizes their designs to grab his item is the climax of the play. The play thus reveals the breaking of human and familial relationships in the modern world. The story clearly reveals how elderly people are mistreated. Stanley Hutton uses various literary devices to criticize basic human characteristics in the play. He uses irony, sarcasm, humor, and a twist in the plot to criticize human traits. He tries to show how the sisters are interested in the property of their father rather than to show true care and affection towards their father. Characters in the play. First, the Amelia Slater, Henry Slater, Elizabeth Jordan, Ben Jordan, Abel Merriweather, Victoria, Mrs. Sherrock. Amelia Slater, an energetic and short woman who married Henry Slater and has a 10-year-old daughter, Victoria. Henry Slater, he is a man, husband of Amelia, who has no will of his own. He always goes at the back of his wife. His wife, she dominates. Amelia dominates her family. Rather, Henry Slater. Elizabeth Jordan, he is Mrs. Jordan. She is one of the daughter. Is a stout and complacent woman. Ben Jordan, he is the husband of Elizabeth. He is a practical man and a very big hypocrite in the play. Abel Merriweather, he is a widower, father of two daughters, Amelia and Elizabeth. Victoria, she is the daughter of Amelia. Mrs. Sherrock, she is a widow. Abel Weather, the father of the two daughters, who wishes to marry her. The story Dear Departed depicts the hollow relationship among a family. The story shows how in today's world everything is governed by selfishness and greediness. In those days, people were very affectionate, but later the daughters and sons, they all rely on the properties of their father rather than to look after them. It shows how two daughters are only concerned about their father's material possession, that is, their property of their father. The play is a satire on the bonds among modern day families. Mrs. Latter asks her daughter Victoria to not to go out in the street to play when her grandfather is lying dead. She also tells her to change her dress before her Aunt Elizabeth and Uncle Ben arrive in the house. She informs her that they are coming to talk about Grandpa and everything that has happened. She says to her husband, Henry, that they must look better than her sister Elizabeth and her husband Ben in the morning dress. Henry is not sure if they will come or not, but she argues that Elizabeth will come at once after her share from their father's possessions, because they were not speaking together, the Elizabeth and Amelia, after their father's death. Amelia's husband suspects whether Elizabeth would come or not, but Amelia tells that her sister will come to take the property of their father, that is the share that belongs to Elizabeth. She asks Henry to wear grandfather's new slippers, that is her father's new slippers, so that it looks like Henry is the owner of the slippers and they will not have to divide them. It shows they were even very fond to take away their even the slipper of their father. They never want to leave down anything. She tells him how she always wanted to have grandfather's bureau under her possession after his death. When Henry says that Elizabeth will not allow this to happen, Mrs. Latter suggests that they could put the old chest of drawers at the place of the bureau and nobody will know about this besides them, because they want to take the bureau of their father, which they were liked by them. Instead, they want to keep the drawers in the place of bureau. Elizabeth could have the old chest of drawers as her share, so she asks Henry to help bring down the bureau along with grandfather's clock. So, Amelia wants to take away the bureau and the clock of their father, rather to keep the chest of drawers in her father's room. It is for Elizabeth. She asks her daughter Victoria to close the door and inform her immediately if her aunt arrives. Victoria does not like such a behavior of her mother at all. So, Victoria is different from her mother. Her mother, Amelia, she wants to take everything from her father, the property of the father, but Victoria is different. She is not like her mother. Before Elizabeth and Ben's arrival, Mrs. Latter has already brought down the bureau and taken the clock, and now Mrs. Jordan and her husband enter. After they have brought the bureau down, her sister came. Mrs. Jordan instantly says that finally grandfather has been dead, and she also says that they couldn't come early as they had been waiting for the morning dress. She asks her sister what the doctor said about grandfather. So her sister comes to Amelia's house and she inquires about her father, what happened, why he was dead. Mrs. Latter told that the doctor that is Pringle. He was not available in the place. He was sent for, but he was out of the town when Mrs. Jordan said that it was a fatal mistake, referring to her grandfather's death. Mrs. Latter does not approve and both start quarreling how grandfather should have taken care of. Mrs. Latter tells her that father had been very happy that morning. So her sister Elizabeth, she fights why she didn't look after her father. Because of her carelessness only, her father died. She scolded her sister, but Amelia told that she was taking care of her father, and also she told that morning also he was well and good. He had gone to the, and she told that he had gone to pay his insurance. She further said that he must have gone to renew bells after paying the insurance. Mrs. Latter further told them that she went to offer him food to eat. She then put the tray down the bureau. She then corrected herself quickly and sat on the chest of drawers. She asked if her sister would visit their father, but she preferred to go after having tea. Now, Mrs. Latter and Mrs. Jordan discuss how to announce their father's death in the press. In those days, they have to announce the death in the press so that only the relatives will come. Mrs. Jordan suggests reciting a poem, but Mrs. Latter says it will be expensive. Then they come to talk about dividing jewelry and other things. Before seeing their father, their two sisters, they spoke how to divide their property of their father. Mrs. Jordan tells that father promised to give his gold watch to Jimmy. This amazes Mrs. Slater. Ben seems more concerned about father's insurance money. Victoria tells them that grandpa didn't go to pay his insurance that day. Mrs. Slater doubts that father must have visited Ringo Bells instead of the insurance office. At this, Ben calls father a drunken old beggar. Mrs. Slater is furious because she kept him for 3 years with her. Slater kept her father with her for 3 years. Mrs. Jordan is even more furious and accuses him, saying she kept him for 5 years. Mrs. Slater asked to check if the insurance receipt is in the bureau. Then both the sisters start fighting over the bureau. So they wanted to check the bureau whether the insurance paper receipt was there. So for that one, the two sisters were fighting. After some time, Victoria informs everyone that grandpa is getting up. Everyone is surprised because they thought that he was dead. Later, Victoria, her daughter, his able Mary Withers, that is daughter of Slater, shows that grandpa was well. So they were surprised because they thought that grandpa was dead, but he was not dead, he is alive. Father Abel asked the reason for the kids' arrival. Their father, the able Meriwether, he was shocked. Why the another sister, another daughter came? What's the reason? They were fighting, they were speaking. He was very shocked. And he asked why they were there. He is irritated because no one responds to this. Mrs. Jordan and asks if he is well. Abel sees Henry is wearing his slippers and is agitated by it. Abel was very angry because Mrs. Henry was wearing his slippers by thinking that he was dead. He asked them why they were wearing mourning dress, and he also sees they were wearing the mourning dress, white dress, and he was very shocked why they were wearing this dress. Victoria is very happy that her father is not dead. Grandpa again asked who is dead. He is very confused and shocked and repeatedly asking why, who is dead, why you are wearing like this, all have come here, what's the reason, and why is everyone wearing mourning dress? Mrs. Latter lies, saying Ben's brother is dead. She lies, she tells lies and says that Ben's brother is dead. Mrs. Slater also offers him some pie to eat. Grandpa tells everyone he was tired and was sleeping since morning. Then his gaze falls upon the bureau and asks why it has been taken from his bedroom. So he suspects everyone and he sees whether his bureau was on the top in his room, but it was kept down in the downstairs, and he asks why it is kept there. Then he also sees his clock, which is also came down. Both of his daughters start arguing about this, and he is watching them confused. Mrs. Jordan tells him that he was thought to be dead and accuses Mrs. Slater and Henry for stealing his things. Later, Mrs. Jordan, that is his another daughter who came there, told about everything about their father, that he was dead and they were fighting for his property and all. So he was very shocked. Their father Abel, Meriwether. Now the grandpa Abel has understood everything what had happened. He had understood that his possessions were being divided. Before he was dead, they divided his property thinking that he was dead. Henry asks him about his will. He tells them that his will is in the bureau. Mrs. Slater requests him not to be hard on her. Grandpa tells that he shall make a new will, leaving all his things to who will take care of him until his death. Later, he changed his decision that he wants to have his property to the people who wish to have him till his death. Now, both the sisters want him to stay with them, but Mrs. Slater says that Mrs. Jordan has had enough time with father. Grandfather Abel tells them that they have mistreated him in the past and they should not be very proud of it. He told that he was not very satisfied with the two daughters because they kept him because of his property. Ben suggests him that he should live with one of his daughters, but he has other plans. He tells them that on next Monday he is going to do three things. That is the next week. He told that he is going to do three things. The first one is he has to go to the lawyer, change his will. And the second one is he has to pay the insurance. And the third one is he wants to marry a widower, John Sherrocks, the owner of Ring of Bells. He then thanks Mrs. Slater for bringing the bureau downstairs. It would be easy to carry it from there. The play, Dear Departed, focuses on the moral values which everyone should learn. It depicts that nowadays the value of money is far more than human emotions. So, people pay more attention to money. They give more respect to money than the relationship. The book further shows how family values are decreasing in society. Materialism has affected the modern life of ordinary people, that even the father and daughter's respectful relationship is also tainted with it. The play highlights the aspects of the matched craftsman by wonderfully observing the ordering of the scenes. The Dear Departed summary also brings the harsh reality of the family. When it comes to money, they have more importance to money than the father. That is, both the sisters, Amelia and Elizabeth, they were fighting more for their father's property rather than to keep their father safe. All this just died the love of a family and father-daughter. The absence of moral values in the family leads to a lack of responsibility in the kids. This is the reality of the modern family. Sometimes they didn't care about family and gave importance to money or other things. This happens because of moral values. If they have not learned the moral values and ethics in the family, sometimes children go against their family. This play depicts the same thing that Abel didn't know about his selfish daughters, and after learning the truth, he decided to live alone with his newly married wife, whom he can trust for life. This shows the reality of family when it comes to morality and money. So, kids must learn the moral values of the family and respect every person with dignity. The most important thing is that the children learn to respect and love their family, and it is the family's responsibility to teach their children good moral values to make them strong enough to choose between right and wrong things. Thank you.